Today we're going to take a look a little bit deeper inside of FluentCRM. We're going to look at the contacts section. I'm going to show you how to import some contacts. We're going to go over a few of the features there and just kind of put the customer in the customer relationship management tool. Hi, my name is William Beam with Suburbia Press. We like to help small businesses and entrepreneurs build and understand their online platform. And one of the tools that I'm recommending is FluentCRM. I think it's a great tool. I use it myself on all of my sites. Today, why don't we dive in? We'll take a look at the contacts section. Okay, I'm on the dashboard. There's two ways to get to contacts. One over here on the side, you can see where there's a menu option for contacts. And also up here, you can see there's contacts as a drop down. Let's start off with all contacts. And you see I don't have it in here. We're going to go ahead and import some. To work with this, I don't want to show anybody's real email address, so I'm going to this site. It's called macaroo.com. And what this does is it lets you build and generate basically dummy data. I don't know if you have a need for this or not, but I wanted to show it to you. In my case, I really only want two things. I want the person's first name and I want their email address. I don't want to collect IP address. That's a concern for GDPR in a lot of cases. I don't need to know their gender. I don't even need to know their last name, and I don't need to generate an ID for them. The system will generate its own ID. All I want to do is get a list of basically dummy data, first name and email. You can see it defaults to 1,000. That's more than I need. I'm going to change this to 100. And you can get the format that you want. For me, comma separated value, the CSV, is perfect for what I want to do. And I don't even bother changing the line ending. Unix is fine for me as well, too. I don't think it's going to be a problem for most systems. And you can bring in a header, and that's not a bad idea if you're bringing in CSV, because that way you can map the fields. So all I want to do from there is go down here to the bottom and say download data. If you want to, you can click preview just so you see what you're getting. So you can see there's the header, first name and email. And then it's just making up some random email addresses, and that way you've got something that you work with. If you want to see the raw file, it's right over here. This is what you'd actually import. So we're going to go ahead and click download data. And there it is. It just gives me 100 people I can use. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close this tab out. So we're going to come over here to, we have options. If we want to click add, this is where you manually enter a contact. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to go over here and click on import. And I'm going to use a CSV file. And you can see the steps it's going to walk you through over here. So we'll click next and select the delimiter. In this case, comma, not a semicolon. And I can just kind of click over here and upload my file. And this is where you can kind of map what your CSV headers are to what the subscriber fields are. If you pull down one of these little options over here, you get a list of all the different things. So I'm going to click that. And this one I imported, I think I have first name, last name, and email address. If you want to, you can go ahead and assign them to lists or tags. And you can also change their subscriber status. I'm going to put these people in as subscribed. The reason I'm doing that, typically I would, if I had a list of people that have not yet confirmed, I'd put them in as pending. Since these are fake emails, none of them are ever going to reply back and subscribe, and it's just dummy data. I'm not going to be sending them anything. If you have a list that you brought in from ConvertKit or ActiveCampaign or something like that, and you've already confirmed who you're bringing in, I would bring them in as subscribed. There's no point in having them confirm the email address just because you switched from that system over to FluentCRM. So that's what your status is. And of course, you see that you can put them in as unsubscribed, bounced, or complain. Those are options, I would say, if you are testing something. But if you just want your subscribers put in, go ahead and put them in as subscribed. Now, this one over here says update subscribers. You notice there's a little option over here. It's like, do you want to update the subscriber data if it already exists? That's a choice. If you've already got people inside of your database and there's a possibility that the CSV may overwrite it if it's imported, this is your option. Say yes if you want to overwrite that data, no if you don't. Since I have just basically dummy data, I don't need to change that. If you have a list, I'm going to go ahead and put these people on my test list. That's the only list I've created so far. And I don't have any tags. My mistake. I've got a test tag. So let's go ahead and we're going to put these people on a list and we're going to put them on a test tag. And that is it. You can do multiple tags. So if you had another one over here, you could add on to it as well. And same thing with lists. In my case, unless you know that these people belong on a certain list or in a certain tag, I wouldn't add too many of them, because then if you find out that you're wrong, you've got to go and clean up those lists and clean up those tags. I would rather just bring them in with very minimal lists and tags and then assign them as needed. It depends on the group of people that you're bringing in. And once you've done that, you go ahead and confirm your import. And there it is. You can see that I have 100 users inserted, and I'm done. So I can come over here, click the X, and now you see that we've got 10 people per page. You can change that option down here, and you see I've got 10, so 10 times 10, that's my 100 users. And the nice part about having done both first name and last name, even though I don't really need the last name, it looks better. All right. If you want to export these people, you can do the same thing. You can choose what fields you want to export. And notice we've got a lot more fields here than we did for the import. The import, I did not create all those fields. You may actually update your information in the contacts part for a user, and you can choose what you want to export. If you want to have a limit, you can put that over here. And export offsets, maybe you want to start at a certain place. So for example, if you've got 100 users and you've got 50 in one export, you may want to set an offset for 50 or 51 to get the next group. It depends on what you need to do. I'm not going to export these folks right now. I'm just going to go ahead and cancel. And let's take a look inside one of these accounts. So you're going to see on this first header, you've got the name, and you can see, are they a lead or are they a customer? Customer would happen if you've mapped FluentCRM to something else, and then you've changed them to a customer because they bought one of your programs. So if you're using WooCommerce, that's a very easy integration. Subscribed shows that they're already subscribed. They're not one of these other statuses that we've already talked about. So these are things that you can search on. These little icons down here, this will show the total emails you've sent, the open rate. So are they opening 100%, 50%, 20%? And then this is the click rate. So you want to know how many of your emails are they opening? And if you have links in them, what's their rate for clicking? Are they actually taking action on your email? So you can see that by user. Over here, you get a quick glance as far as, are they part of, how many lists are they on? You can click plus. If you had more lists, you could add them there. And the same thing with tags. You can go ahead and click plus and add them to other tags. Down here, you have basic information. If you know or need to know, is this Mr., Mrs., or Ms.? If you have address information, phone, city, all those fun things, and even birthday. The next item over on emails. This is something that I've noticed is available on the Pro version. Over here where it says send email, it is not available on the free version. So imagine that you're updating your contact and you say, I need to send them an email. With the Pro version, you can just go ahead and click on this, and then you've got your interface here to go ahead and send off an email. Maybe you were just talking to them, you said you're going to follow up. It's an easy way to get to them and shoot off an email to talk about what you just discussed and follow up. And then you can see the emails from different campaigns and automations. Obviously, we don't have anything here yet because we haven't started anybody off. But these email sequences, automations, it's showing you how they participated and interacted with your FluentCRM system. Same thing with form submissions. I have Fluent Forms Pro on here, but we haven't built anything out yet. If they had submitted themselves and that was the source, to sign up for maybe your email freebie or whatever you have, that would show up in here. Notes and activities is interesting because we don't have any notes yet. You can go over here and click notes. By default, it looks like this. So you can say what type. Is it a note? Did you have a call? Was it an email? Are you talking about a quote? And there's just a number of different things. Even a tweet. That's actually, and a Facebook post. That actually kind of surprised me, but I'm pleased to see this there. You can put your title in and add a description. But that's not all you can do. So let me cancel out of this. I want to show you one other thing. And again, this is going to be a pro feature as well. We're going to go over here to click on Settings. And here we have Custom Contact Fields. If you don't find the fields that you want inside of FluentCRM by default, which is quite likely, you can go over here to click Add a Field. Select what type it is. Do you need to have a multiple choice, multiple select choice, radio, checkboxes? You need to record date and time. Basically, you can add a field that you want. Let's do select choice. And So as I'm typing this out, you can see that it's creating the slug automatically for you. And then you can put in your different values in here. And you can just build that out, and then you can add this to your contact. So you have options using these settings to build custom contact fields that are specific to your business needs. All right, so that kind of goes over the contacts. I'm going to take a brief look at lists, tags, and segments, but I think we're going to dive into these deeper on future videos. So what is a list? Basically, a list is a manual collection of email addresses or contacts that you're going to send email to. So if you have a specific purpose, let's say that everybody on this list is a lead, and then you might have another list, everyone on there is a customer. Those are two attributes that define your list. You can do it this way, but that may not be the best way to do it. And I'm going to jump past tags. I'm going to come down here to dynamic segments. So let's create a custom segment. So the conditions are going to show up here. Is it based off their email address, their name, the city? Maybe you want to do something that is specific to a geographic area. So everybody that's in a state or everybody that's in a country, maybe they're all from the same source. Did they sign up on the same email form? Maybe they haven't had activity in a while, or maybe they're very active. This way you can tell your hot leads versus your cold leads. Or perhaps they have tags or lists, and you can choose that. So let's say that we're going to keep this kind of simple. Assume that they're in the United States, they're in a state. The condition is going to be equal, not equal, contains, not contains. Depending upon the source information you have over here, this condition may change. In some cases, it'll say in or not in. So let's say this state, I'm going to say contains. And I'm going to put in FL for Florida. Now, I don't have any address information, so I'm not going to get anybody with this one. We could change this around as well. Let's choose a condition of contact email, and we want to go ahead with contains. If you want to send something to everybody within the same domain, let's say gmail.com. We may have a few of those folks in there. We don't have anybody with gmail.com. Well, let's cheat. I'm going to go back to contacts, and we can see Google IT, WebMod. Let's try blogs.com. So I'm going to come back over here to my dynamic segments. I'm going to create a custom group. We're going to select based off of email, contains, blogs.com. And I've only got one user, but that's enough. You can add more conditions, or you can filter by email activities. That lets you know, based upon their link click metrics. I'm going to leave that alone for right now, and we'll just create a custom segment. Didn't give it a name. So blogs.com users, and I'm going to create a custom segment. So here's what happens. If we get someone else who subscribes to our contacts and they have an email domain that says blogs.com, this is automatically going to update. If this person unsubscribes, they're going to get removed from this list. So this way you have an active list that is updating automatically. It's a dynamic based upon those conditions. And that can save you a lot of time. For example, when we were looking at activity, people are going to have activity that goes within and without maybe some criteria that you set. So the list is going to change. You may decide if people are not active, you send them some emails trying to re-engage them. And if they don't, then after a while, you dismiss them, you delete them. So you can build little list cleaning or list scrubbing systems using these dynamic segments. So hopefully that shows you there's quite a bit of power here. Let me go back to tags, and I'm keeping tags kind of towards the end. I am of the opinion that tags are one of the most misused features. You can create a tag and use that as criteria to send emails. In other words, to send an email to everybody who has this tag. I don't think that's the right way to do it. I think tags are best used as informational stuff. So if you want to sort a query off of them, that's great. But sending emails, I think, works better from a list or a dynamic segment. Tags are best to maybe get profile information, maybe to get historical information of how they've interacted with your system, status if they're going through an automation. So, for example, we haven't gone to automations in detail yet, but at every step of an automation, I like to create a status tag. And they start I put a status tag in saying user started this automation. Not exactly those words, but to that effect. When they go to the next step, I'll remove that tag and I'll add another tag to show where they are in that automation. Essentially, for their life cycle of the automation and the different layers that are in there, I have only one status tag active at a time, but it tells me at a glance where they are. I can do a query off of that, like how many people are stuck at this status tag or waiting on something, or they haven't responded to an email that I sent. It's a quick and easy way to know where they are within an automation. A history tag is different. As I create a status tag, I will also create a history tag, but I never remove the history because that way I can see what they've done to interact with our system all the way through their life cycle. Profile tags are interesting because that tells you something about the user. Is this profile about someone who has an interest? Are they interested in WordPress? Are they interested in creating a course? Do they have an interest in, let's say, creating a membership or a coaching plan? Those are things that I want to know about, and then I can see how can I serve this person better. I don't want to send them information for something where they haven't demonstrated an interest. I want to send them information about something where they are interested and it's helpful and useful to them. And that's where tags are very good for building a profile of your customers, and then you can add or remove them from a list or a dynamic segment appropriately. So how do I create one? Well, let's start off with just a name. So what I'm going to do for this is create something a little bit different. I just wrote in profile interest in courses. Let's change that up a bit. When I look at the tag in the system, I want to see it this way. However, the slug over here puts in two dashes. One, because it puts the dash wherever there's a space, because it can't use a space. But I don't need the slug to have two dashes, because I've typed in a dash. So I'm going to take that one out. And this way, I can search for profiles, and I can see all the profiles. I can search for profile-interest in courses and just see what I want here. And it's a simple and easy way to know that I'm looking for something. I could have just put in interest in courses. Great. I could have put in customer. Also great. But those kind of profile information, when you're doing a search, if you don't have a keyword that tells you the type of data that you're searching for, then you have to rely upon your memory. It's like, okay, this person is a customer. This person is a course lover, and so on. Those are harder to remember. It's easier to just to search for a keyword, in this case, profile or status or whatever, to find what you're looking for and then use those keywords. You don't have to rely on your memory so much or maybe keep notes someplace else. If you use a keyword for the type of tag that you're creating at the very beginning, it'll make management that much easier for you. And that's all I have to do is just put in basically my keyword here and my interest there. That's good enough for a profile. But what happens if I'm doing a status? Well, that could be very different. Let's create another tag. I want to know the different types of tags I have. So let's say that this one is a status tag. The next thing I want to know is, well, what kind of status am I looking at? Am I looking at marketing information? Am I looking at fulfillment information? Am I looking at internal information? So you've got the type, status, history, profile, maybe even a system tag, for starting and stopping an automation. The next thing is, what kind of function are you working on? So let's say this one is marketing. I'm not kind of abbreviate that. The next thing you want to know is, what campaign is this marketing effort on? So for, let's say that I have a course called, let's say I have a course called SEO Fundamentals. That is telling me everything about tags. Status tags that are marketing are all about this course. And then there are different stages in the life cycle. So I can say, and downloaded PDF may be one of their steps in the life cycle of an automation. So I go ahead and put that in there. And then this is my little thing. It's like, you don't have to come back here and delete these little dashes. I tend to do so because that's just the way I am, but it'll work just fine. You don't have to do this thing with removing the dashes. I just think it's easier to deal with. And then you can put in, it's kind of optional little notes of whatever you want to do. But that's the way I build a tag. I want to know what type it is. What function does this tag serve? If it's working on a campaign of some kind, is it for marketing? Is it for sales? Is it fulfillment of a sale? Is it an internal note that I want? Then what kind of campaign am I working with? So this is a specific campaign for a course called SEO Fundamentals. And then what stage in an automation are they? And that would be how I create a tag. So let me cancel this. And we've gone through, I think, everything here as far as our contacts, our lists, tags, and segments. And that's all I wanted to share for this video. I don't want to make it too long. But hopefully this has been helpful to you and gives you some ideas how you can use contacts within FluentCRM to help your email marketing automation efforts just work a little bit smoother. I think having a structure for tags and using that as information about your subject and how they've interacted with you helps you build a relationship with them, send the emails that are important to them at the time that they're important to them, and just really helps you build an engine from your FluentCRM marketing system. If this is helpful to you, I'm going to be doing more videos like this, so please go ahead, click subscribe. And once you do that, click the like button. That lets YouTube know that we've done something right. It really helps the channel, so they'll share this with more people. And if you want to know when I put out another video, click the little bell icon, and you'll get a notice that there's another video out from Suburbia Press. Thank you so much. We'll see you again in the next video.